Hey folks, I'm Lucy at Ballyhoo Creations and I design cloth dolls that are made with an embroidery machine. But today I'm talking about something disgusting. Plastics clogging our planet. Let me tell you about Team C's and then I'll give you some tips on reducing plastic waste in your sewing and machine embroidery. Team C's is a joining of YouTubers and others on social media to raise $30 million to clean up the oceans and rivers. This effort is being coordinated by some rich YouTubers, not me, millionaires like Mr. Beast. And they have created this movement to raise money while two nonprofit organizations will do the cleanup work. 100% of the money raised goes to these two partners, the Ocean Conservancy and the Ocean Cleanup, where those two groups have promised to remove 1 pound of plastic for every dollar raised. At the end of this video, I'll share a link where people like you and me can band together and donate to get this important cleanup work done. But before we get to that, let's talk about another dirty secret that we have in machine embroidery. We waste so much material. Waste is actually built into this craft. I probably don't need to explain it to you because you probably already feel guilty about it. How much wasted thread, fabric, and stabilizer goes into your trash can? Probably a lot because that's the nature of machine embroidery. And most of that is plastic. Don't believe me? Don't we typically embroider with polyester thread? Did you know our stabilizer is made from polyester or nylon? And what about those synthetic fabrics that we use? Guess what? Polyester, nylon, acrylic, these are all forms of plastic. And these synthetics don't break down in water and sunlight the way that natural fibers do. And what about all the empty thread spools or pre-wound bobbins that we have to throw away? I'm going to get to that. Stay with me. We won't be able to reach a zero waste just yet with machine embroidery because the people making the machines and the supplies, they need to work on that for us. But I did some research and I want to show you some ways you can reduce, reuse, and recycle the plastics in your sewing and embroidery studio. First of all, we can reduce the amount of plastics we bring into our sewing space. Did you know you can embroider with quilter's cotton thread, or that cotton thread can be composted? It might not work for all your projects, but try it and see if you like the look of cotton machine quilting threads in your designs. I've got one here where I used a variegated thread around the edge of this applique. It worked great. There are cotton stabilizers on the market. I've used one called Cotton Soft by Madeira. It's a tearaway stabilizer, and I haven't tried composting it, but it should easily break down since it's made of 100% cotton. You can also use the water-soluble stabilizers, also called Vilene, for a lot of your stabilizer usage. It doesn't completely get rid of the problem. It shifts the problem from a solid waste issue to a liquid waste issue. And if you're in commercial embroidery and doing thousands of garments a day, this doesn't really solve your problem. But if you're a home embroiderer, this can mean that instead of going in the trash, it gets dissolved into a spray bottle of water, and then you can have a liquid stabilizer. Stop using plastic bags when you go shopping. Make yourself a nice fabric bag. Put some custom embroidery on it. Show off your craft and reduce the need for plastic shopping bags. Obviously, use less stabilizer. Buy sizes of stabilizer that fit your hoops so you'll have less waste. This is one of the biggest steps you can take towards reducing the amount of polyester you throw away. And along those same lines, use the smallest hoop you can and look for hoops that require less stabilizer, such as a clamp frame or a magnetic frame. I've seen people use thread cones or empty spools and bobbins to hold little finger puppets, but I don't have any to show you yet. Did you know you could stitch or glue your leftover stabilizer scraps together and create new sheets? There are plenty of YouTube videos showing different ways of doing this. Find some scrap buster projects you love and make them. I keep my scraps in a pretty old cookie jar on my cutting table, and I can always find some pretty little bits to add to my projects when I want them. If you make dolls and stuffies like I do, you can use your fabric and stabilizer scraps as stuffing. That's another of my dirty secrets. Many of my sample dolls are filled with the scraps that I cut away from the edges. What, you don't already make dolls and stuffies? You should. Because every adult secretly loves toys and most won't admit it until someone gives them a gift of a doll or a stuffy, and then they love it. You can even keep your thread ends and create neat items with that jumble of threads. I keep a cup near my machines and only the thread scraps go in there. And every year or two, I turn them into a thread art project. You got a t-shirt or garment that was ruined by embroidery? join the club. Cut it up and use the fabric for something else like an In the Hoop project. I use recycled clothing for In the Hoop projects all the time. When we think of where plastics go to die, we usually think of recycling. When you're buying your threads, be conscious of the kind of plastic spools the thread is wound onto. This Floriani thread has the number 5 recycle symbol on it, and so does the Glide brand. So I know I can recycle this in my town, and that's awesome because these are my 2 favorite brands of thread. But many of my other spools are not stamped with the recycling stamp. What is wrong with these people that they don't even stamp these so that we know if we can recycle them or not? They need to get on the ball. Another thing worth noting, if you're using pre-wound bobbins, because let's face it, they are super convenient, you can get them with cardboard cores, or you can get the Filtech magnetic bobbins, and they have a program where you can send the cores back and they'll reuse them. So save those little suckers in their original box, and someday I'll send them back and they'll get a second life. But recycling is not an option for stabilizers because almost all of our stabilizers are made in a way that make them non-recyclable. People like us should put pressure on the industry to change this. And we should also be putting pressure on the makers of embroidery machines so stabilizers not required, or at least we can use less of it. But I'll save that movement for another video. Right now, I'm feeling very guilty about all the scraps that wind up in my trash bin, and I'm pledging to be more careful about it. I'm going to reduce, reuse, and recycle as much as I can in my embroidery studio. Over the next few months while Team C's is raising money, I'll have 1 or 2 freebie projects for you to use up your scraps. So subscribe and don't miss out on those freebies. But for now, I'm gonna donate some money to Team C's. Even though I don't think that my trash stabilizer is winding up in the ocean, at least I can help clean up the existing problem while I try to reduce it here in my own space, you know? If you want to join me in donating to #TeamC's, remember that every dollar removes a pound of plastic from an ocean or river. What a deal. Here's the link for Team C's, and I hope you join us to clean up our mess and start saving your scraps because I'll be bringing you some scrap buster projects in the near future. See you later, folks.